Doctor, are you finding it hard to get your entire team aligned into a productivity workshop, but you know you deserve growth just like everyone else? Hi, I'm Reagan Robertson, CCO with Productive Dentist Academy, and with over 30 team members myself, believe me, I get it. That's why our co-founders, Dr. Bruce B. Baird and Victoria Peterson, have put together a productivity bundle designed to guarantee your growth in 2023. All you have to do is register to attend a 2023 productivity workshop. And if you do so before December 31st, you will receive 12 months of PDA on demand. That is our entire productivity workshop, including breakouts recorded at your fingertips for a full 12 months after you attend. This is ideal when you bring on new team members, if you add an associate, and to make sure that you have mined every nugget of gold from our award-winning curriculum. You will also receive a 90-minute one-on-one session prior to attending the workshop with a PDA business advisor. This is to help you get the most out of your time before, during, and after your experience, so you can customize it and hit your specific goals. We offer this only once a year, and due to capacity, especially with the hands-on attention we provide each attendee, we only have 50 available. It sells out every single year. You can grab yours right now. Go to www.productivedentist.com and you can click on the Cyber Monday link, or go to www.productivedentist.com/workshop. If you feel you need it right now, email Brent, Brent, at productivedentist.com. We probably don't even have 50 left at this moment, so I hope to see you. We can't wait, and have a wonderful new year. What is right for the patients and what is right for you as a provider and your team?
Well, right. Like if I was open in Maui and I wanted to surf every morning, I would go surfing. You'd go surfing.
Let's get into that visual. I like that a lot.
Right.
Yes.
And so you would open at,
I'm gonna go to Maui
at noon, and you'd work from noon to 7 or noon to 6 or noon to 5 or whatever, but if surfing was your thing and you wanted to hit the morning surf, then do that. Make that a reality.
Welcome to the Everyday Practices Podcast. I'm Reagan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take right into your own dental practice. If you're ready to elevate patient care and produce results that are anything but ordinary, buckle up and listen in. Welcome to another episode of Everyday Practices Dental Podcast. I am your host, Reagan Robertson, here with my esteemed co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson. Chad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I wonder though, for all of our business owners out there and all of our dentists out there,
yes,
how creative, I know how creative you are, but how creative, listeners, are you with the hours that you keep your office open? That's question number one. And question number two, before we dive into this, is do you choose your hours because they are convenient for your patients, your team, or you? Correct. In this episode of Everyday Practices Dental Podcast, Dr. Chad and I are going to offer a creative hack. Thanks to Chad. This is all on you today, buddy, for your hours of operation that may help you shift into a more satisfying schedule for everyone involved.
Yeah. So whatever kind of, I imagine 90+% of you are using electronic records. And so you would simply be like, I'll kind of cut to the chase. You use your practice management communication software, Lighthouse, Revenue Well, just stuff like that. And you email out to everyone a SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey is a website, app, whatever, surveymonkey.com. And if this gets too old, someone's listening to this 10 or 20 years from now, there might be a newer, better way to do this. But overall, you just want to go to surveymonkey.com and send out a survey to all your patients saying, we are typically open. This is just going to be an example. We are typically open from 8 to 5, Monday through Thursday. We've been considering expanding our hours for patient convenience from 8 to 5 to now 7 to 5. Would you be interested in having that be a reality, then one of the answers is, like it could be a 5-star rating. It could be a 1 through 5 kind of thing. 5, absolutely. I would so take you up on the offer. 3 being, like, yeah, this is kind of interesting. 1 being no, or I'd even leave if you guys were open at that time or something like that. So then we sent this out to all of our patients. And the way I was looking at it, let me come up to the mic a little better. Sorry. Okay. So the way that I was looking at it was that I needed, when we were open from 7 to 4, and we switched it to 6 to 4. What I was going to do was I was going to work 6 hours from 6 till noon. And so that was just going to be my clinical day, 6 to noon, 6 unencumbered straight hours of clinical dentistry. You could fit all your big blocks in, and that's the advantage to that. You don't have lunch breaking it up. And then my associates would work, something like, mid-morning, like 9 or 10 until 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Then
Now,
we
wait,
could.
I want to pause you here. Was
Okay.
6 to noon like your ideal schedule? So from the provider, from the doctor's perspective, that was your ideal schedule.
For me, yes, because number one, I'm a morning person. And number two, I was just like, yeah, let's just get the day done with, and I can have the afternoon to do whatever. So I would get a workout in the afternoon. I would go pick up the kids from school, just stuff like that. So those were a few advantages that I found to be important. But then also my one facility was now getting 2 shifts. So we weren't having the office sitting fallow for a long period of time, because normally, it's a farming term.
It's a good
Sorry.
word, fallow.
Yeah, it's a farming term there.
Not me Googling quickly. All right.
So if you're working 4 days a week, really your office, if you're doing 4 8-hour days out of what is it, 176 hours in a week, you're working 32. It's just like your office is really mostly closed with a few hours that you're exceptionally working. Otherwise, it's sitting fallow. So it's just
Hollow,
sitting around.
barren.
Yes.
Destitute.
Yeah. Destitute. Yeah. It's yeah. So then the idea was, if I could, split it into 2 shifts, then I could have my operatories and get everything done. The associate could have the operatories, for getting all the work done, rather than sharing and then having it sit the rest of the day or the rest of the week closed. So when I sent it out, I was like, we're open 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. So every hour is 12%. If 1/8 is 12.5%. Then if we switched to 1/9, not being open 9 hours, then that would be 11%. So I really needed to get about 11% of my patients to say, yeah, I'd take you up on the 6 a.m. appointments. And because I don't
that
need,
was how you worked it?
well, because I don't need 100% of people to say yes. I don't want 100%, because if all of a sudden 100% of people want your 6 a.m.,
Sure.
well, I suppose at that point you'd consider, should I open at 6 and close at 8 a.m.? Like if 100% of your people want 6 a.m., that's ridiculous.
Right.
So you want people throughout the day. That 11 a.m. and the 1 p.m. is kind of tight. So where, like you're sitting around sometimes because no one wants to come at 11 and 1 and stuff like that. They kind of just go, okay, I guess I'll take 11 and 1 and stuff. And that would change again from area to area. But, if people are off to work now, a big parenthetical thought, COVID changed a lot of this. COVID changed, are people working from home? Are people working at all? Are people interested in going to the dentist at all? So a lot of these questions that we took for granted are now, changed.
Yeah.
I hope that in a lot of areas that's changing back, but it was quite a disruption. And maybe for the better, maybe for the worse, it filled your 11 a.m.s and your 1 p.m.s because people are just like, shoot, I'm working from home. But we found that our 6 a.m.s were not as popular as before COVID, when people had to get to work by 7. I even think about our teachers, and I've brought this up on the podcast before. Our teachers would come in at 7 a.m. They have to be at work at 7:45 a.m. or else they have to take the morning off, at least in our district. So that would change from district to district and state to state. But they it was mandated then at that point that, so even if they went from 7 to 8 a.m., they were having to miss the whole morning for their dental appointment twice a year. That's rough. So 6 a.m., man, they're done at 7. They can still kind of piddle and get to work and get some coffee and stuff like that. and still make it by 7:45 and be ready for the school bell to start. So I sent the Survey Monkey out, and we got back our report from the Survey Monkey that said about I think it was 10% of the patients said yes, I would, 5-star. I would love to come in at 6 a.m. Well, then it's done. I don't need 100%, yes, I actually was working off of the margin. I only needed 10-ish% of the people to say yes. And indeed, that's what we got.
Mhm.
And it wasn't quite 11% or, 12.5 and stuff, but I was like, that's close enough that I can fill it. And we can call them our executive appointments or our sunrise appointments or something like that. Like we can,
Sunrise appointments.
oh
I
yeah.
like it.
Yeah,
Does it
we came up with some ideas for that.
so how has the schedule gone since you implemented this really early schedule? I mean, I would be one of the 10%. I would
Yes.
absolutely jump at a 6 a.m. appointment
Yeah.
because I've always had this assumption that people don't want to work really early and they don't want to work really late. But as you know, part of my healthcare team is a 40-minute drive from where I live. And so going in the middle of the day takes out a significant chunk of my day. And because of my role in the company, I'm able to adjust my own schedule, but not everybody is. So I would jump at that. So what were the results of the 6 a.m.? Did you get it filled, or
They
was it
were an
fallow?
absolute hit. Yeah, fallow. They were an absolute hit. And then the other problem was like, patients were like, oh, I hate these 6 a.m. appointments, but they're it's better than coming at 7 or 8 or 9. So in other words, patients still hate coming to the dentist either way. It's not like all of a sudden, it was a delight. But the people would say stuff like, man, this 6 a.m. is early. Do you get up? Like, are you guys open this early all the time? And I just say, I'm a morning person. I just get it done. I'm done by noon and boom. And so they'd go, well, thanks for doing this, because this is nice. As much as this is no fun being here at 6 a.m., it at least gets me on with my day and stuff like that. And then even some of the third shift people that would wait until, let's say, 8 a.m., they get off of work at 5 a.m. and they've been working the third shift overnight, and then they have to
Mhm.
wait until 8 a.m. or something for their cleaning
Oh, I
appointment.
didn't even think about that. That'd be
Yeah,
rough.
right. So it's kind of cool because the 6
Yeah.
a.m. they could come from work straight to the dental appointment and then go to bed. So there were a lot of advantages to this. And the key point is using the Survey Monkey to find out, do your patients want it? But also remembering, you don't need 100% satisfaction at the 6 a.m. You only need 1/8 or 1/9 of your appointments to come at that time. And then the rest, the people that are happy with 7 still can come at 7. The people who are happy at 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. can still come at that time. But you're looking for those the people to fill in. And it really helped with my surgeries. I felt like if I had block appointments or wisdom teeth or stuff like that, that people kind of wanted to be NPO and just get it done with sedation, and they could get it done with at 6 a.m. and have the rest of the day to recoup and stuff like that. So that's what how it helped me
So
and how we did it.
what about your team? Did you survey your team? I mean, you're an early bird, but was your front office an early bird? Or your hygienists early birds? How did that work?
Yes and no, just because they're not. Well, let's remember this: early birds and morning people, love the morning and stuff like that. But then we morning people also have to be civilized humans in the afternoon and in the evening.
Yeah.
People that aren't early birds also need to be civilized in the morning and get up and get moving. So, like, to me, it's kind of a cop out. If I never hear like I never hear people say, "Hey, do you want to get together at 6 p.m.?" Oh, I'm a morning person. It's not going to work for me. It like that just
No.
doesn't work. But it's funny though, non-morning people can get away with that basically the whole morning to some degree by saying, "Oh yeah, I'm not a morning person." So basically, like, I'm just going to check out, and it's just like, it doesn't quite work that way. So yes, I asked my employees, would you be interested in working at that time? Because I didn't need all of them to come in at 6 a.m. I just need,
Right.
I at least first the starter, the first 6 months needed one to come in at 6 a.m. and one assistant and maybe one front desk person. And so it wasn't cool, but at the same time, what I offered was, you get the afternoon off, so you're done early, and then I'll also increase your pay to this and that. And so we kind of did a play around with that. But that did actually change after COVID. After COVID, in Des Moines, in Iowa, and stuff like that, we have quite an insurance-driven crowd, and not from a dental insurance perspective. Like our industry is a lot of insurances, home insurance, life insurance, all that stuff like that. So people go in and they're. I think we just come from an industrious culture. So the insurance companies figured out, hey, these people get into work at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. and they work the full day, and they're a clock in, clock out kind of person and stuff like that. So they have these this work ethic to come in and work at 7. So they we're an insurance capital, and a lot of people then wanted those 6 a.m. appointments and were willing to switch until they were working from home from COVID. That's when people started switching away from the 6 a.m. So we have not done that when we started finding when we opened up from COVID that no one wanted the 6 a.m.s if they didn't have to. So that's being sensitive to your team, sensitive to your area and stuff like that. I like starting at 6 a.m., but it also, now we start at 7 a.m. again. And there might come a point in the next 5 or 10 years that I want to open back up at 6. And how that would work is I would send out a survey monkey. That's the key. Is you mentioned it at the beginning, you alluded to it. The patient,
Yeah.
you as the owner, what do you want and what does your team want? Because just because you want it, if no one on your team is willing to work it, even for a pay incentive, you're hosed. You can't pull it off. Like you can't pull it off if you don't have your team there. So you do have to make sure, hey, if I send this out, would you guys be willing to work it? Oh, you wouldn't? What about $1 more an hour?
Would that do it?
Would that do it? Okay, well, yeah. And so you can play around with that and figure out, is it more efficient for you to just get it done by having a 6 a.m. appointment? Now, 6 a.m. in your area might be ridiculous. You might be in an area where work doesn't really start until 9 or 10 in the morning.
Well, I was just going to say, but think about the employers in the area too. Like you just said, certain people that have graveyard shifts. We have a gigantic refinery in our town, so I don't even know
what their work shifts are.
Yeah, I don't know what their work shifts are. So I think the Survey Monkey is really a bright idea. Do you how often do you do the Survey Monkey to check the hours? Is it like something where you notice, okay, our morning appointments are starting to fall off, I wonder if they're not as popular? Like what tees you up to do the Survey Monkey again and kind of reevaluate?
There's two. Number one, the obvious answer is when you want to switch. And number two is if what you have isn't working, then naturally, so yeah, if you're sensitive to the fact that, man, no one's coming in at 4 p.m. and we're open until 5, but no one's coming in at 4. Okay, well, no one wants to come in for your 4 p.m. appointments. So time to close up shop. Keep in mind a little key secret of mine as far as the work schedule. If you're open until 4, I never liked having my own clinical patients, my operative, restorative appointments until the same hour that the hygienist got done. I move it back a half an hour that we're trying to get done, because as I'm wrapping up with a composite, let's say at 3:30, then the exams start being requested. And so from 3:40 to 4 o'clock, I'm going to need to do 3 exams. How it used to go is, man, I'm just about ready to start filling. I got behind and now I need to do these 3 exams. So I'm going to do these 3 exams up until 4 o'clock. Now at 4 o'clock, I'm going to be finishing my composite appointment. So at 4 o'clock, I would be finishing up with my composite until 4:15 or something. And so that was annoying to have it go all the way until 4 o'clock plus maybe 4:15, maybe 4:30 if things. So I just try and wrap up at 3:30 if you're getting done at 4. The hygienist can work that last half hour, but then what naturally happens is I'm actually getting done at 4 when I said I wanted to get done at 4, because you're not done at 4 just because you say you're done at 4, or you're not done at 3:30 just because you say you're done at 3:30. You have to get done at 3:30 so that way you can get done at 4 o'clock. So just a extra tidbit there. Well, that's it for practice hours and discussing that kind of stuff. Really, it's central around 3 issues. What do you want? Do you want to get done by noon, or do you want to get started at 6 in the morning? Then figuring out, is your team crazy enough to switch the hours with you? The first time this was ever presented to me was we were working 8 to 5 and we switched to 7 to 4 because one of the hygienists said, Man, I wish we could get, like finish up an hour early, because the 5 o'clock traffic, is a lot rougher than she'll say, when we got done at 4 o'clock and I got to leave at 4 o'clock because the patient didn't show up at 4. It's amazing how my drive home was a breeze.
Mm,
And so, but 5 o'clock, it's just like I'm getting the friction of everyone else. And so, but I said, well, we still need to be open this many hours. So let's move it from 8 to 5 to 7 to 4. Well, that was such a hit. That's what prompted me to go, shoot, I wonder if, 6 a.m. might work for us. I mean, we'd be the only practice in the area. That's another distinguishing factor is
mhm.
if if you can find a way to distinguish yourself by, like, let's say everyone else is, we're open from 9 to 3, and you can be open at 7, people will be like, man, I love going there. They're open at 7, and it doesn't have to be 6 a.m.
Oh, I'll tell you, I found 2 things out. One was, yes, open till 7 o'clock at night. That made me incredibly happy to hear because I can start scheduling now. Now that I know this, I can start scheduling out after when my meetings are going to wrap up, when I know my day is going to come to completion. So that's really helpful. And then I think the wild card is I just found out that my main healthcare provider is open on Saturdays.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, you guys are brave and bold." And they said actually just one of the doctors really likes that schedule and it
Yep.
works for them. And I'm like, "It works for me." I mean, that made me thrilled to hear. So it's a wild card, but again, getting back to what is right for the patients and what is right for you as a provider and your team.
Well, right. Like if I was open in Maui and I wanted to surf every morning, I would go
Oh,
surfing. You'd go
yeah,
surfing.
let's get into that visual. I like that a lot.
Right.
Yes.
And so you would open at,
I'm going to go to Maui.
at noon, and you'd work from noon to 7 or noon to 6 or noon to 5 or whatever, like, but if surfing was your thing and you wanted to hit the morning surf, then do that. Make that a reality. Um, but the one trouble that I have, when I first opened, I set Tuesdays. I worked until like 6:30 or something. It was an hour and a half later. The one problem that I found that goaded me was people would wait until, so this is November, just for a reference for the recording. If someone came in and I said, hey, you've got 5 cavities, we need to fill them. Oh yeah, I'll take that Tuesday late appointment so I don't miss work. Okay, well, the next one that we have available is next July. Okay. And I'll be like, you're going to let your cavities sit until next July?
That's a
Yeah,
long time.
I know, but that's what I'll do. So that was frustrating because people would purposefully wait that long, in spite of the fact that I'd say, I recommend that you get this done as soon as you can. Well, that's the soonest I can do it. So when we stopped having, how do I say it? When we started implementing uniformity to our schedule, then that got rid of people that, now if you're always open until 6:30, then great, there's no problem. But if you're only open once a week or once a month on Fridays, well, everyone's going to be like, oh, I'll just wait once a month, for that Friday. Well, the next one is next July. That's fine. Well, aren't you in pain? Yeah, I'll just deal with it. Well, that's going to translate to Sunday. Some Sunday, they're going to give you a call and be like, I can't wait any longer. Can you
Well,
meet me at the office? So they're going to make
yeah.
poor dental emergency
Well, this
decisions that
gets
in
into the
effect, yeah,
psychology of it too, because you're
yes,
absolutely correct. So, how I place my own health is as soon as you can get me in is the soonest I want to be in.
right.
So, I will juggle everything else around my schedule in order to make that a reality. I would
And that's
never.
amazing patience, but not everyone's that way. Right, right. So we're
Well, my
thinking about,
husband
if
and I
you're a
were just
new
talking
owner.
about that because I had 2 appointments in one day. They were different types of appointments. And so I had one in the morning and then I had one towards the end of the day because they just weren't able to, button it up to get 2 right together like that. And I did
Yeah,
not care at all. I would drive, I was fine with it. And he was like, you're driving over twice. Like they couldn't accommodate that. And I'll tell you, it did not even enter my head, but that's because I can be adjustable with my own schedule and not everybody can.
correct.
So, yeah, so thinking about where that I'll take that Friday and live with it for several months. There may be multiple factors going on psychologically speaking. It could be work related, like I physically can't do it. There's no possibility I can't get the time
Yep.
off, or just a mental thing.
Yep. So it could be yourself, it could be your family,
Uh-huh.
if you, for some reason, have special needs children that have morning appointments at a doctor, and you're like, well, I can't do morning.
Sure.
Well, then make that work. And that should be obvious. Then, poll your team, figure out, can you provide an incentive to make it happen? And if so, then poll your patients through SurveyMonkey, send it out, find out if you can get that X percent of patients interested in coming in, so that way you can make it work. Even if it was 5% that wanted to do the 1 hour earlier, but you had one hygienist, not all 4 of them, that was interested in coming in at that time, well, then 5% for that one hygienist might be all that it takes to fill her up at that hour earlier. Just a few thoughts. And our keyword for the day is fallow.
Fallow.
That field is fallow this
We don't
summer.
want your schedule to be fallow. Well,
No.
thank you. Listeners, I hope your 2023 it really gives you the schedule of your dreams. And I love this sort of creative mindset on your hours and what works for you, what works for the patient, and what works for your team. So
That's right.
SurveyMonkey, it's free, it's easy.
Good point.
Send out that poll, think about the mathematician angle of it, what statistics need to come in, what percentages, and you'll be successful.
That's right.
Thanks everybody for hanging in there on this special Black Friday / Cyber Monday episode of Everyday Practices Dental Podcast. And we hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. Chad and I are here every week thanks to our community of listeners just like you. And we'd love your help. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.